Good morning, everyone. Hello from a very chilly Joburg. And this is a very early morning because we are inviting an old friend of ours back by the name of Carl Bates. And he is sitting in New Zealand. So it's the end of his day. And you'll notice the short sleeve shirt where you'll see it's a bit cooler with me. But we're so happy to have friends come and visit us, especially now that we're back in some form of isolation. So you will remember that a couple of episodes ago, we spoke to Carl about Sadar Group and the work that they do around training people and helping boards do their best work. Now, Carl is also, he's a founding partner at Sadar, but he is also the founder of the Contribution Compass, and that's what we're going to discuss today. Hi, Carl, how are you?
Wonderful, thank you, and thank you for having me again.
It was wonderful.
And, looking forward to having another great conversation over a coffee.
Wonderful, wonderful. I must tell you, the coffee is necessary at this point in time. So Carl, when we actually last time in our previous interview, we were supposed to talk about Contribution Compass, and we got into a very interesting discussion around performance and how that looks from the director's point of view, from the board point of view. I wanted to ask you today, when we talk Contribution Compass, what does performance look like when we talk about that kind of tool?
It's a great question, and I like the way you've made it contextual to teams and the role of contribution. And I think when we talk about the Contribution Compass and we talk about the idea of performance, we're talking about how do you ensure that each person gets to contribute in an organization, in a team, in a business, in their maximized form, in the best way possible. How do I as an individual contribute my best to the team? And so performance is about ensuring that both I'm given the opportunity by being in the right role with the right expectation and context, and that I understand what my best contribution is so that I can bring it to the team.
Wonderful. It looks like two hands holding each other, the perfect whole.
And it is so much. Like, I think so often we think about a role and we say, this is what the role needs. And we find someone and we say, okay, deliver this. But we don't actually look at it and go, but this individual might have the right skill, the right ability for the role, but are they going to show up in the right way? Are they going to bring the right thing to the table? And the Contribution Compass is all about understanding how can you maximize result, return, performance, outcome, both for the business and for the individual, by making sure that people are given the opportunity to maximize their contribution in roles that align to fundamentally who they are.
Wonderful. What does that showing up, what does it mean for that individual?
So let me give you an example. I'm a chartered accountant by background. Now, the moment you hear the word chartered accountant, you first of all, think grey hair, which clearly I don't have. No, I'm being facetious. The moment you hear chartered accountant, you think numbers, analytical, data-driven. But being a chartered accountant is a skill, and there are lots of different ways that skill can be required in a business. If you're looking for a chartered accountant to be your CFO for a business that's about to go and have an IPO, you might be looking for someone who's more extroverted in the way that they engage with the world. They've got the ability to understand the numbers and do the work, but more importantly, the ability to sell those numbers to your potential investors. Whereas if you're looking for a CFO, so same role, but the context is you're about to do a whole lot of consolidation because you're buying companies and you need to bring them into the group and you need accuracy and you need to understand the complexity of the tax law and the way these things are going to play out with each other. You might need someone who's a very different profile, who's going to bring to the table a very different contribution. And I think so often, or too often, we focus on our ability to do something, our role, our skill, or our ability, rather than focusing on what is the contribution that I'm going to bring to the table? How am I going to show up in this world? And that's really what the Contribution Compass is all about.
And does the Contribution Compass only count for teamwork, or can I start with select individuals?
So you can definitely start with select individuals. You can start most importantly with yourself. So while your core contribution comes when you've got a balance of energy in the team and you've got different people at the table asking different questions, coming from a different perspective, any given role requires a very particular type of energy, dependent on what is required from the role practically, what you require from the role in the context of the age and stage and life of your business or of that team and where the organization is headed. So you might require something slightly different from that role now than you would have, say, 6 months ago or 12 months ago or 5 years ago. And so when you sit down with the individual and you go, what do we want? What is the contribution that we require from this role in our business? And is the individual we have in the role aligned? Or is the individual we're looking for the right type of individual for the role? I just want to pause there for a moment. I think so often when we talk about individual performance, and you asked at the beginning of this conversation, what do I think of the word performance, or what is performance? So often when we talk about performance, we talk about outcome. We talk about, have you done it? Have you achieved the result? When sometimes it's actually much more important to focus on the contribution the role is making, the things that are in the control of the individual. Because if the person is doing what they should in terms of their contribution, the outcome should naturally follow. Great example is sales. It's really easy in today's market for sales people on your team to say, it's the market. That's why I'm not achieving my result. It's COVID. It's the lockdown. It's the current challenges in South Africa, as an example, that mean I'm not achieving my numbers. Put that to a side for a moment and ask the question, are you making the contribution required? Are you making enough cold calls? Are you having enough conversations? Are you going to the virtual networking events because you can't go to the physical ones right now? And that's the contribution. And I think one of the things that the contribution compass focuses on is understanding whether that contribution you're looking for is the natural game field, the natural playing field of the person in the role. And so often it's not. So often what you need in terms of the contribution is not the natural playing field of the person you have in the role, and there's a disconnect. And until you sort that out, until you change either the playing field or the expectation of the individual, you're not going to achieve the result you're looking for.
It's such an interesting example that you bring up, because there's been more than one time that a client has come to me and said to me, I need to hold an event and I need you to make my people speak at the event. But they are IT specialists par excellence. They are engineers par excellence, but they don't enjoy speaking in front of people and energizing the crowd, so to speak. And I think that's what you're saying. So for those individuals who haven't experienced the contribution compass, do you mind explaining a bit to us? What is it and how does it work?
More than happy to. So the contribution compass is a personality profiler specifically about understanding your underlying natural energy. So there are different categories of psychometric testing, personality profiling that are used for different things. So true psychometric testing is about understanding the way an individual's mind works. And I think that's really important in senior level appointments, understanding who is it that you're putting in the seat. Can you trust them? What makes them tick? Where are their challenges going to be? Where are they going to show up? And that, I think, as I say, is important in senior level or executive appointment. Natural energy is a concept that's around how do you show up in terms of your area of contribution. It's based on the work of Carl Jung on the I Ching, which is a 5,000-year-old Chinese document, translated into English, and then basically the foundation of all of this sort of school of thought that we have around the world now. The tailoring of the contribution compass and the use of this school of thought and the use of this understanding is particularly around understanding the individual's, as I say, natural energy and how that translates into contribution you make as an individual to a team. So what someone does in order to understand their contribution compass profile is they complete a questionnaire, a profiling questionnaire. There's no right or wrong answers. So none of this is about saying you're right or you're wrong as an individual. It's about understanding your uniqueness. And you go through the process of answering those questions. They give us a view of you. We can test that through a profile debrief. So we'll feed that back, or the partner that you work with, because you don't work directly with the Contribution Compass. We're a platform that's provided to different partners around the world to use in their relationships with their clients and their businesses, and the way they operate and support everything from coaching to leadership to professional services and a whole lot of other things in those spaces around the world. And so that partner will debrief with you, get an understanding of how it lands, and then once there's agreement on that, they'll then be able to give you some tips and some identifiers and some direction around how you can get real value out of understanding the best way for you to contribute in a team, to an organization, if it's your own business, in your own business, and through that to maximize both your return as an individual and the return the businesses achieve. Those returns, by the way, might be financial and non-financial.
Okay, so many questions right now. First, tell us about the structure. You talk about partners. How does that work?
So the Contribution Compass is a platform that is provided to partners. So those partners, as I say, might be consulting firms, they might be coaching businesses. We've got a partner in Australia who works particularly with the real estate industry. They're called Agent Dynamics. There's a partner in the UK who works with teams called Team Dynamics. Interestingly enough, there's a partner that works specifically with veterinary practices called Vet Dynamics in the United Kingdom. There's a business that I'm associated with called Serdar. They work with boards of directors. And all of those different businesses use the Contribution Compass as part of their toolkit in supporting their clients to improve performance, to achieve better results in whatever the context may be. So the Contribution Compass works with partners, and through those partners provides our platform of products and services to the end user. And as I say, those users are all around the world.
Wonderful. So I think, Carl, if someone after watching this is interested in the Contribution Compass, do we point them to a Contribution Compass link, or do we send them to a particular partner? How do we do that?
A great question. Send them through to the Contribution Compass website, and our team at our head office will direct them to the most appropriate partner for their context. It might be based on where they are geographically. It might be based on the industry they're in. It might be based on the context or the reason why they're wanting to understand their profile. And we'll make sure they get paired with the right partner to work with them on that journey.
Wonderful. And what I will do is I will pop the link into the session notes when we post this.
Perfect.
Okay, perfect. So we understand the tool. We understand how it works now. We understand how it relates to performance and people's contribution within teams. What I wanted to ask you is this a tool just for understanding oneself, in respect to a particular team? Can I recruit using this tool? Can I develop using this tool? How else can we use it?
Great question. So it's about understanding yourself as an individual. It's about understanding the team. So every team will have a profile. So if you have 8 people, the profile of that group of people will be unique and distinct to that group of 8. If you've got a team of 3, the same logic applies. That group of 3 will have a profile unique and distinct to them as a group of 3 individuals. So what we're going to be looking for is how any team comes together and what the profile, what the underlying natural energy of that team, that group of people is, what their flow level is. So we talk about how in flow is that team on a scale of no flow to peak flow, and changing different people on that team, changing the participants in a team will impact the flow level of any given team by understanding the combination of contribution of the people in that team. So yes, it supports the individual, supports the team. To your question about development, it then flows into development, because while everyone will have a profile, you might be what we would call mature, or you might be well grasped. You might really understand your profile. You might be cognizant of it. You might see it coming up, Or you might have no clue. You might have missed this. It might just not be on your radar. And that'll impact how you show up in the world. Even though you might be a particular profile, you might not be very good, for want of a better word, at ensuring that contribution comes across. So yes, it's a developmental tool as well. And then to your fourth point, it's absolutely used in recruitment. So used in the context of understanding both people that you're looking to appoint. So do they have a natural energy that aligns with the role that you're looking to fill? And it's important if you're using it for recruitment to use it with someone who really understands it so they can guide you in the appropriate use in a recruitment context. The other way to use it in recruitment is to use a tool we call the contribution identifier. Now, the contribution identifier is currently a free tool that you can utilize to understand the type of energy you need in a role that you're looking to appoint. Okay. Now, so let me just say that again. It's a free tool that you can use to understand who it is that you look for or should be looking for in a role that you're looking to appoint. Now, it does take 30 minutes to do properly and get a result. And you might go, Carl, that's a lot of time. I get that. My response, though, is if you are looking to appoint someone, the cost of mishire, look, depending on what stats you look at, anything from 2 times to sort of 5 or 6 times salary, particularly at the executive level, annual salary, is the cost of a mishire. So if you don't have 30 minutes to invest in making sure you get the right person for a role, particularly when it's a free tool to go and do, gives you pointers on how to look for those people, how to write adverts based on the person that we think that you should be appointing to that role, all of that sort of great stuff. If you don't have 30 minutes to invest in doing that, then go take the gamble and see how you go.
The contribution identifier. Another link for me to add to the session notes. That sounds fabulous, but okay, so this is new to me. You did not prep me on this, so for once I'm the one that's caught off guard. You're getting back at me.
I can't make it too easy for you, right? I can't just give it all to you on a silver platter, right? This is a coffee discussion. You don't know everything before it happens, right?
I need another one. So isn't that a little deterministic to say, I know I need X? People are so individual, and how do I know that person's going to fit into the team?
So it's one tool in a set of tools you should use in your recruitment process. However, I don't know. I think there's a lot of pushback around the world around this idea that you can't put someone in a box, that, we can't say that this is the sort of energy that you show up and that I can change and all of that. And I get it to a degree, and I get where that comes from. The reverse of that is my wife and I are fundamentally different. My wife is grounded. She wants to know the plan. She works much more on feeling than the picture, the big idea that I do. I'm big picture. I'll jump off the cliff and work out the plan on the way down. I'll change my mind halfway down and try and jump back up and do another cliff. I'll say I'm going to jump off the cliff, and then just before I get there, decide it's a different cliff I'm going to jump off. And I'm not trying to be trite about how I think, but that's just the way I'm wired. And it's that process that means I create the value I do. And it's the thinking process my wife has and the approach my wife has that means she creates the value that she does in the areas in which she creates value, right? And we both have different ways of contributing and showing up. And the point I'm making is I'm never going to be Candace, and Candace is never going to be me. It just is the way it is, right?
Yes.
And I think sometimes we try and, in the world of everything is possible to everyone, try and say that that's not so. And I think, and obviously I come from the contribution compass world, this is the way I think. I've seen it, and I've done it, and I've used it, and all of that great stuff. I think there is a reality to how we show up, and understanding that reality and being honest about it actually is better for us and better for the organizations we participate in. And they make happier workplaces, they enable people to perform better, they get people in flow, and ultimately they improve the bottom line of the business, which enables the business to do a lot more than if the business is losing money.
Obviously. Perfect. So does that also mean that when I'm interviewing someone, if I have their contribution compass, if they are showing up with the right type of contribution, because each contribution has a name. I know there are broad categories and then each contribution has a name. Now, I'm a champion. So on the contribution compass, I'm a champion. If I walk in and I've got the champion contribution compass, but I'm immature in it, and I mean immature as in I've got the potential, but I haven't harnessed it, I've not developed it. Is that something that you can see and decide whether you want to develop in a recruitment practice, or is it kind of like, oh, I'm not seeing that person show up, so I can't?
So the person will show up like that as a champion. That bit will happen. The bit that might not happen, and the bit that might require development, is they might be immature in it and they don't get when it's good that it shows up and where it's their ball to play, and where it's bad where it shows up. So an example would be a champion saying, I can do everything, instead of a champion saying, the things I'm really good at and that you would want me to do are A, B, and C. And that's the distinction between that idea of understanding where your value is in the team and where it's not. Just interestingly enough, it's interesting, and obviously I knew and know that you're a champion because you've done the program, as you say.
Yes.
But it was interesting when you were caught off guard just before about the question and the discussion, and your words were, I wasn't prepped. Now, as a champion, that's a touch point for you, because champions don't like to be showing up or brand reputation or being caught off guard, because how we come across, it's our credibility, right?
Yes.
Now, it's interesting that you said that, but what's really interesting and what I want to use as the example for people is in profiling or in natural energy, we talk about critical moments. And critical moments are when you respond without thinking. Now, I don't mean respond without thinking in terms of you being deaf or being, unintelligent or anything. It's when you respond from your natural energy in a moment that is in pressure that you don't have time, if you like to think it through. And what you did there was a response in a critical moment that reflected your natural energy. And I think it's a great example for people to see.
Yes, it's what you're explaining is almost like micro expressions.
In many ways it is. And there are different ways of seeing things, right?
Yeah. I was like, I didn't know about this. Need more information. So
particularly because this is being videoed, right? Particularly because this is not like, if that was something I said to you without the video on, your response would have been different. And that's the point I'm trying to make. Again, not to be trite about it, to be like, it's a really good example of how people show up in moments when they're not necessarily thinking about who they are in that moment.
I hear you. And it's so true. And I suppose there's something to be said for understanding that and honoring that and knowing when to use it. So it's not about when you say how people show up. That thing that I went, hold on, I've not been briefed on this. Well, then no, don't surprise Innocent with such things, because she feels she's unprepared. It reflects poorly on her. It takes away from her motivation. It'll damage her engagement over a period of time.
Yeah,